2.com or call 424-888-2820. 424-888-2820. Now, if you enter promo code ED or you mention Ed Opperman, you get a 10% discount. How's that? You get a free consultation, all negative items removed, get back in positive credit position, dynamic solutions too, life-changing dynamic financial solutions. 424-888-2820. Tell them Ed Opperman sent you. You get a 10% discount.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Michael Molitch-Hou. He runs this website called therealityinstitute.net. Now, when we left off, our hero, Michael Molitch-Hou, has uncovered a den of Nazis, arms smugglers, drug dealers, masquerading as wildlife crime fighters. Now, Michael, what do you have to tell us next?
Well, so you gotta wonder what these guys are up to. Yeah. Supposedly raising, however much money, 10,000 times 1,001, for the World Wildlife Fund. Yeah. And so I, for some reason, just was searching through the CIA's FOIA reading room to see if Prince Bernhard had been mentioned because of, possible intelligence ties. And so I found that he's friends with Alan Dulles and all this other stuff. But so as I kept looking, I saw this one telegram. Or actually, this one was on WikiLeaks. A telegram from Bernhard, from a U.S. diplomat to Henry Kissinger, the Secretary of State at the time. And in it says that Prince Bernhard proposed turning a part of the Sinai Desert into a world wildlife conservation park. And in it says, this could be the diplomat says this could be great for, turning it into a what do they call that? Demilitarized zone. Oh, okay. So that Egypt and Israel could possibly meet there for, meetings to discuss the peace possibilities and things like that. And so to me, that basically says, Prince Bernhard is willing to create a wildlife park for the purposes of U.S. state, affairs and world affairs. In this case, it's demilitarized, but that could mean that it could become militarized. And then there's a follow-up telegram saying that the Israelis were cool with this idea. And so I don't think they ever ended up doing that. But as you look further into it, you learn that Prince Bernhard was deeply involved in something called Operation Lock, in which the WWF basically served as a cover for, or this is what I came to learn, because people have learned of Operation Lock but they haven't quite come out and said that it's been a cover, but it really seems like a cover for military operations in South Africa.
Now, one of the things you uncovered here is that they murdered members of the ANC?
Yeah, well, so this one I didn't uncover because it's been reported in a book called Panda Leaks. Okay. But what I feel like I've done is completed the picture because I don't think everybody's linked all of this stuff together. So in this book, actually there was a documentary that came out. It aired on the BBC. I think it was a BBC. Aired once and then never aired again, about the WWF and Operation Lock, and the fact that these MI6, what are they called? Special Air Service Commandos had killed members of the ANC. And then that documentary disappeared. It's impossible to find now. And the guy who directed it died a few years later. And after this Panda Leaks book came out, he died. And I don't know exactly how he died, but it's sort of a mystery, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking of that when you were talking about how you were looking through the FOIA docs. I was thinking, if it's a 501(c), I can get those tax returns almost. I just ordered a bunch on another institution. You get a big. I'm holding my fingers apart about 4 inches high. You get back you get back this big giant stack of documents. Much more than any one person could go through. But I could just imagine you'd put yourself on such a list, man, going after these guys. This is no joke. No, really, this is crossing a line. Because if you notice, even Nelson Mandela, they let him out of prison. He never did. He ever make a public statement saying, "Hey guys, the WWF is a bunch of CIA guys"? Has he ever said that? No, right?
Well, I think so. Actually, they did do an investigation into what happened during that time under Operation Lock. It's part of a larger investigation with the what do they call it? I forget what they called that period of time after he was released, but that was just one small part of a larger investigation into a lot of the crimes that happened under apartheid. And they did find that here I can read where the quote is, but they found that let me find it. Oh, here it is. So Mandela government had an inquiry into Operation Lock, and they decided that the WWF cannot contend that it had no knowledge of this operation or was totally divorced from it because the WWF at the time had internal organization documents discussing Operation Lock. But so they at the very least, Nelson Mandela's government knew that the WWF knew that it was conducting these operations. And we haven't even talked about the operations themselves, which can get pretty scary. I mean, they killed ANC members, but they were all across the continent, it sounds like, during the wars being fought by the apartheid government.
And you said that they were using Phoenix program tactics.
Well, no, I was saying that current day paramilitary people are torturing villagers in a way that's very similar to Phoenix program type stuff. These guys, they may have been, but their focus seems to have been on killing ANC members and other people that were going to fight the government.
Are there any countries that have kicked out the WWF, says, hey, you're not allowed in our country?
Actually, I'm trying to think. I read a cable, I think, I want to say there's a South American country, and they did kick them out because they were kicking out all basically foreign nonprofits and stuff in the worry that it was a front.
What about Cuba, Venezuela? Did they allow these people in there?
I don't know. I haven't looked into that, but that's worth researching.
Now, I don't want to distract you from your narrative. What else do you want to tell the audience? No, I'm serious, because we don't have that much time left. What do you want to get out that I've been distracting you from?
Okay, so I think an important aspect is the tie between the British intelligence and the WWF. So what happened is Prince Bernhard worked with a South African functionary of the WWF to hire this group called KAS Enterprises, which was started by Sir David Stirling, who was the founder of the Special Air Services in England or in the UK. And what this guy's history is really interesting in itself. He was a right-wing MI6 agent who attempted to overthrow the Yemeni and Libyan governments in the 60s and 70s. And then so what they did is they hired this guy's firm, KAS Enterprises, and they were supposed to infiltrate the trafficking network across Africa. So that was their cover story, it seems to me. And I found there's this one report that's been leaked in which these guys are saying that the U.S. Department of Interior, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, were keen to provide them with technical assistance for tracking rhino horns. But because of the embargo, they weren't able to ship it directly to them in South Africa. So what these guys suggested is that they send it to London and then have them take it into Africa on their own. So you already see these different U.S. government and British government agencies working together with this poaching outfit that's being run by MI6 agents in South Africa.
Right, because what you want to do is you want to create the problem. You want to create the poaching problem, and then you got your other guys here coming in to solve the problem.
Yeah, and these guys were the problem. They were trading illegal ivory. And so that's sort of like what's been taken away as the big failure of Operation Lock, is that KAS Enterprises was actually selling ivory illegally. That's what people think the failure was, but I think that that's just cover for them performing covert operations. So like, there's a few other things that happened. So they, like you mentioned, they supposedly used the Kruger National Park, which is like a massive national park in South Africa. They used that to train paramilitary units from a previous death squad called the Cuffit Squad, which is involved, I think, in the Angolan War. I'm not sure. But they trained them, and then within the park, they trained these people, and then they went and killed, I think, about 6,000 members of the ANC or opponents of South African regime. So that's a huge deal. And there's other links that aren't necessarily worth getting into here, but one or at least two more important details is that the same group, KAS, funded a helicopter gunship in Zimbabwe at the same time as it was doing these operations in South Africa. So, like, they're traveling throughout the country, and they went to Zimbabwe. WWF funded a helicopter for this Zimbabwe's Department of National Parks and Wildlife Management. And then that helicopter and those park rangers ended up killing 57 poachers, supposedly. And this story came out in, I think, the early 90s. But the stuff isn't like completely hidden from view, but nobody is making the connections about the possibility that it was deliberate intelligence or military operation.
Oh yeah, if they're taking out 6,000 ANC guys, this is a serious operation. They got serious numbers, and they have serious equipment. There has to be more than one helicopter, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, so one of the people who reported on this was a New York Times guy who wrote a book about it. Named Raymond Bonner, and he said that they were funding similar things in Tanzania at the time, and we already know about South Africa. But I list like some of the countries where this group was supposedly operating, and we don't know all the details of what they did, but it's like at least like I'd say 10 countries in Africa, but maybe more. I'd have to count them.
Now, what kind of reaction has your article gotten?
Well, I mean, not a lot of people have read it except for followers on Twitter, but those people have liked it. I've sent it to lots of people. I've tried to get it published in like I'm trying to think. Mint Press News is sort of a low-key parapolitics website, but I also sent it to like Motherboard, which is a Vice outlet, and Splinter, which used to be a Gawker news site. But nobody wanted to publish it for some reason.
Yeah, I wonder why. Now Mint Press News, they come out with this article about how Jeffrey Epstein and the Clintons both have a corporation at the same address. Oh, my goodness. Oh, what reporting? A Delaware corporation. Oh, my, really? Oh, along with 20 other thousand companies. Yeah, lunatics.
Yeah, including Trump is at that same address.
Everyone is. I probably got a couple over there. Everyone is, because it's a corporate. Anyway, let's get this and move on. What else? Is there anything else you want to tell us about this that I haven't asked you? Because we're getting to the end of the time.
Okay, yeah, I guess there's at least one really key thing is that on the 1001 Nature Trust, which was, funding part of the WWF, there was at one point 60 members of a apartheid club or organization that was basically a fascist, it was an Afrikaner organization. And in that, among those people were some of the most powerful people in South Africa at the time, like the chairman of the mining and industrial group in the country, the largest bank, and some members affiliated with the National Party, which was the racist apartheid party. And a member of the country's Defense Advisory Council. So like really powerful apartheid government members were and members of the industry were a part of this group at the same time. So I think that's like a pretty solid evidence for having interest in what's going on in South African politics at the time.
Yeah, I can't wait till Ted Rubenstein sees this, because he's one of these big animal advocates, and he's always sharing